Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to some Toronto Raptors news. That's right, we have a Toronto Raptors news update and lots of interesting stuff to dive into. You guys saw it in the thumbnail. The Raptors are targeting Celtics center Robert Williams in a potential trade. We're going to dive into why he'd be a good fit on this Toronto Raptors team. More specifically, why he's a better fit for a Masai Ujiri GM squad, why he'd be particularly interested in him compared to other centers out there on the market. And we're also going to whip up the trade machine and dive into some potential trades, one of which I think is going to be very, I don't want to say controversial, but I want to hear what people's opinions are on it, because I think it's something that's possible, but it's all about how you value the Raptors players and Celtics players. So I'm excited. Definitely stay to the end to check out that trade. I want to hear what you guys have to say about it in the comments below. But before we dive in to all of that, we got an exciting video. I got to talk to you guys about basketball being back, pickup sports being back, no matter what it is you do. Indoor soccer, weightlifting, volleyball. Obviously, we're a basketball podcast, so we're plugging that more. But Javelin Sports, we've been fortunate enough to partner with, which is an application based out of Ontario. They're expanding across Canada that allows you to connect with people in your local area to play your favorite pickup sports with. You can check it out, the link in the description, as well as the pinned comment to be able to download this application. It helps us out to download, and it'll help you out big time, because obviously we've been all stuck inside for the past couple months, and we got to get out, do some fun things, do the things we're used to doing, and you need people to play your sports with. So you can join teams, join different leagues using the Javelin Sports app. But the big thing that is huge for when using Javelin, it allows you to find different places to play, right? If you want to book out a community center, book out a place, you don't have to deal with phone calls or anything like that. You can do it straight through the application. You want to find a court that doesn't have 60 people on it, so it takes an hour to get a run if you lose one game? Go to Javelin Sports, find a place to book a gym time for a drop-in session that doesn't have that many people. It's the perfect application for anyone literally want to do anything active and find a place to sign up and do it. And it's Canadian, so they're supporting the Raptors Digest, they're supporting us. So we really appreciate if you guys download it and check it out. And obviously, we're getting our stuff. We're using the application. If you want to come run with us, right at the Raptors Digest Open Challenge, you got to download the application. The first one should be this weekend, I believe. So definitely going to be some fun stuff happening there. So download Javelin Sports app, helps us out, and you'll absolutely love it. However, we got a lot of stuff to break down in this video, and I'll talk about the report that I alluded to earlier. And this report is it's a pretty interesting one. It's coming from Jake Fisher. It talks about Goran Dragic. We're offering him to different people, and obviously, that's been the case. Everyone knows we're trying to ship out Goran Dragic, but not only are we inquiring about trading away Dragic, but we're talking about adding him with a first-round pick. And I'll show this. I'll put this blurb up from Jake Fisher as well, once again, while I rant about it. But Goran Dragic in a first-round pick, it's something we brought up with Miles Turner. However, the Raptors are searching for frontcourt help, and Robert Williams has also been mentioned as of late as a name that's on the Toronto Raptors list of big men that they are targeting. So that's a pretty interesting guy to acquire, because he's 24 years old, fits the Toronto Raptors youth movement timeline. He's 6'8". Right? You wouldn't think of it watching it from the eye test, watching him play against the Toronto Raptors, especially in those past series, because he's a big man, 240 pounds, a true center with long arms that blocks a lot of shots. But 6'8", so he's got that mobility. He fits, if he's above 6'10", right, he's not going to get targeted by the Raptors. Our max height is 6'9", so that's something that might be a little bit controversial for some people, but he is a true center. He's a legitimate 5. There's no mistaking it. Some people argue, obviously, Precious Achiuwa has been running the center now for us as of late, and some people argue he's a 4, more of a 4. It depends how he's listed. He's been running the 5. There's no debate. Robert Williams is a true 5, and if you look at his stats, they're pretty interesting. They're pretty interesting to look at. They don't blow you away by any means. 10 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks per game, which is very encouraging. And the big thing that you sort of got to look at with Robert Williams is a 73% from the field. He's remarkably efficient around the rim. His touch, right? The questions about Precious Achiuwa are certainly there, but Robert Williams, they're less so in terms of touch. 73% from in the paint. That is remarkably good for even a center. He plays defense. He's more mobile than a guy like Miles Turner, and he gets around, does the help side defense and all that. Robert Williams is a legitimate guy that we could bring in and be a game changer defensively, as well as being a center that's athletic and can finish at the net. So he's exactly sort of the style of player the Raptors have needed to target, have needed to bring in. And as I mentioned earlier, he's a perfect sort of center for the Masai Ujiri's new movement of 6'8", 6'9" guys that are big enough to guard players, but mobile enough to sort of switch on to people and play defense around the perimeter. And that's why he sort of fits our style better than a Miles Turner. Maybe not Jakob Poeltl, who's mobile himself, but a Richaun Holmes certainly. And he's young, he's all that sort of stuff. So Robert Williams is a cool trade target. There are a couple of downsides when it comes to Robert Williams, and the first is injuries. He has dealt with significant injuries in the past that has kept him in and out of the lineup for his Celtics over his first few seasons, so that's something you do have to sort of take into account. He's also a big man that people are questioning whether he's going to take that leap, take that next step. Celtics fans were hoping last year he was going to be in that potential most improved player role. Had 8 points last season, didn't really step it up. This season, he has been better, gone from 8 points to 10 points and 7 rebounds to 10 rebounds. His minutes per game did increase as well, so that's something that you'd expect, but hasn't taken a massive leap. At only 24 years old, it does take a while for these big men to develop. Maybe in a Raptors system, he'd thrive more, but still gives it to you defensively, can finish around the rim, and he's not getting the ball that much in the Celtics offense. Obviously, it's been duly noted that the Jason Tatums of the world, the Jaylen Browns, don't like to swing the ball, don't like to pass it. They don't have a point guard, which obviously is essential when you're a big man to sort of get your game going. They haven't had a true point guard since Kyrie Irving left, and even he is more of a shoot first PG, so it'll be interesting to see how he would fit in with this Toronto Raptors squad. But another thing that you have to take into account is his salary, right? He just signed an extension for 4 years, $48 million. So that might be looked at by some as a bargain. A guy like, okay, you have him guaranteed in here as he enters the prime of his career. That's pretty cool, but it also could be, he's a little bit of a risk injury-wise. Would he be able to fit with this roster? Who really knows? Right? And then you have him locked in on a long-term deal. So that's the positives and the negatives with this sort of hypothetical trade scenario that's going down. But, that's Robert Williams. That's who he is. That's the player. I want to talk about how we could actually get him and whip up the old trade machine in this video, right? Get it cooking up. Haven't had the animation on this computer, so it's been a while since I've cooked up the trade machine animation. But the first one I want to dive into is this one right here. This one right here. I think it's a pretty interesting trade. This one is particularly Chris Boucher, Svi Mykhailiuk, get a little bit of Fiji water going to the Boston Celtics for Dennis Schroeder and Robert Williams. Now, this isn't the super controversial one that I wanted to talk about, which will be the next one I show, but it's similar to the one I brought up with sending to the Sacramento Kings, Buddy Hield and Richaun Holmes back to us, and then instead of Dragic to make the money work in this, it's Svi and Boucher. Now, obviously, Dragic is the guy we want to move on. In this scenario, we'd have to flip Dragic somewhere else, but you do get Dennis Schroeder, who we know the Celtics are putting on the market themselves. They put everyone on the market that's not Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And Schroeder, who's a guy that the Celtics want to get their money down a little bit, right? They want to get rid of him. So I wouldn't mind Schroeder. I wouldn't mind this deal. Boucher is a guy, when you compare to Robert Williams, very different players. Boucher can space the floor a little bit. He's certainly more mobile, more thin, can get around the help side, but obviously, we've seen Boucher struggle when he's matched up against those big men down low. That's something Robert Williams does not struggle with. He has a lot more strength, a lot more finishing prowess a little bit in terms of just moving people out of the way. Boucher more so gets his finishes on strides to the rim or offensive rebound putbacks, while Robert Williams can just bully his way in there and finish around the net. So two different players. Obviously, we have Precious in there, who he's kind of in the middle between the two guys that I'd like to say. And then obviously Kem Birch when he comes back healthy, thinner framed himself. So maybe it's a better fit. And then you also get that guard that we desperately need to come off the bench. And I know Schroeder's been clowned for the fact that he just turned down like a max contract last season from the LA Lakers. It wasn't max, but $20+ million for this $5 million deal. He's better than that contract is sort of suited out. So he'd be a guy that you could definitely run at the backup point guard position, take the load off of Fred and Gary at times, and it could be cool, right? He'd be more consistent than Delano Banton and Malachi Flynn, name's slipping me. Nick Nurse hasn't been playing him enough, but that's the first trade. The second trade is the one I think is a little bit more interesting. The one that I think will get people going a little bit more. And this one is Goran Dragic to the Boston Celtics, right? Along with the first round pick, because that's what the report is sort of brought out for. And then the Toronto Raptors receive Marcus Smart and Robert Williams in return. Now, the reason I think this might be controversial is because I bet you a lot of people see that and they're like, how are we getting Marcus Smart and Robert Williams? And I know a lot of people don't, especially after the series, what Robert Williams did to us. Two of those guys absolutely dominated the Toronto Raptors in that playoff series. We did a pretty good job at guarding Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in that one, but it was really the role guys in Williams and Smart that killed us in that second round matchup. And you're thinking, how are we gonna get two of those guys for Goran Dragic? Ben, you're crazy. Raptors, there's some guy always saying Raptors Digest coming in with the juju or whatever, right? But hear me out. Why this deal could potentially go down. And obviously, you're sending a first to the Boston Celtics as well, which is a valuable pick and all that sort of stuff. And clearly, the Celtics are not a tanking team. They're neck and neck with us. They're playing well as of late, trying to make that push up. But the Celtics experiment clearly hasn't been working, right? They have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. They lost Kemba Walker, who they really lost him due to injuries, and then they ended up trading him away, brought back Al Horford and all that sort of stuff. But they're trying to retool, and they gave big contracts, long contracts to both Williams and Smart, right? If you look at, I already brought up Williams' contract in this one, 4 years, $48 million. That's the top deal. I apologize for this being so small. And then Marcus Smart's contract goes until 2026, where he's going to get paid close to $20-ish million per year. It's a lot of money they have in two role players that it just hasn't really been working out. Two role players that haven't really been able to fit around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Maybe the Celtics say, hey, we get a first-round pick for it. We can waive Goran Dragic, right? And we get some cap flexibility. Well, and also they get a point guard too. If they want to keep Dragic, a point guard that can run their offense, right? They have a lot of defense on their wings and stuff. Dragic would actually probably play on this team if you think about how the Celtics run their style of play and all that sort of stuff, right? They get a point guard that can facilitate, but Dragic isn't the asset here. And people have even talked about him getting bought out once he gets traded, so I'm not going to overhype that. But you get a first, and then you get off of all that money, all those role players that the Celtics might argue just haven't been working out. Then they can look for a big third star to put around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I don't know. I don't think it's that out of left field. I don't think it's that crazy to think the Celtics might be interested in one of those deals. And maybe we have to throw in a young guy. Maybe one pick isn't enough. But Celtics like their picks, right? They like their picks. They like their cap space. They like their future flexibility. I know Danny Ainge is gone, so Brad Stevens is in there now. It's a new regime. But I think it could be an interesting offer. And then the Toronto Raptors in return receive Robert Williams, who we've talked about in this video, and Marcus Smart, who I have been a massive fan of when he's not playing the Toronto Raptors. It's blasphemous to compare him to Kyle Lowry in terms of just ability-wise and what he's done. And obviously, Lowry's a way better shooter, leader, all that sort of stuff. But he's Kyle Lowry light in terms of the fact that he gets underneath the other team's skin. He draws charges. He gets up into people, and he just shakes things up off the bench, which I think the Toronto Raptors could need. Now, obviously, we need a bit more consistent shooting, and Marcus Smart's certainly not going to provide that. Robert Williams doesn't take any threes, but I think Marcus Smart screams sort of Toronto Raptors-esque basketball player, and he can shoot it. He takes bad shot selection, but if he's off the bench, knows his role, that he's backing up Fred VanVleet, I think he could be an ideal six-man that is an elite defender, even though he's regressed a little bit in that sense over the past couple of years. But the change in scenery, I don't know. I think Marcus Smart alongside Robert Williams will be cool. Am I crazy for thinking up this trade? Let me know in the comment section below. You're the best for making it this far. Check out the Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitter, all that cool stuff. As I'll say it again, if you made it this far, definitely check out the Javelin Sports app as well. It's free to download. So just check the link in the description. We'd really appreciate it. And the channel memberships are back. Lots of cool stuff happening there. Anyways, enough of me rambling. You guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.